I know I'm late, but I just felt like I wouldn't be a good YouTuber if I didn't address a movie that pretty much changed its genre forever. In this video, I'll be talking about my personal experience watching Obsession completely alone in the darkness at 11 PM, and also why I think it worked so well as a movie. At the end of this video, we are going to decide if this is Oscar worthy or not. And so without further ado, hi again, I'm Shahir, and let's talk about Obsession. I feel Obsession really made a difference in the horror genre because it showed all the big studios what can be done with a little budget and a relatively simple storyline that might seem cliche, but really isn't. It really just defies all odds of Hollywood in general and leaves the audience with a message that will linger for generations to come. So obviously my experience of the film is going to be a bit more exaggerated than others, considering I was by myself in complete darkness. But I think I could argue the fact that even if you were watching this in the cinemas with your friends or your family, it would still be a similar experience. The ability this film has to just immerse you in its world is really like nothing I've seen before, and the horror isn't immediately in your face with the jump scares and just random bullcrap that's happening, but it slowly seeps and creeps its way into the plot instead, and before you know it, you shit yourself. Oh, obviously I'm not speaking from personal experience there, it's just something that happens to everyone. Right guys? Now let's talk about standout scenes. We obviously have the restaurant scene, which still scares me even though I've seen it about 50 times, scrolling on TikTok or IG Reels. But some other scenes which weren't really floating around too much were the flower scene and the poem scene. I think these two scenes were actually some of the best in the entire film, and particularly the flower scene, because that was the first time in Obsession where the audience feels really scared. Those creepy movements that Nikki does is what really gets me. I mean, just look at it. Another thing the scene does is actually portray to the audience the characterization of Bear, because this dude is the real problem. If it were me, I'd be running away as soon as I see my girl, quote unquote, watching me sleep. But no, he chooses to stay because, believe it or not, bro is right where he wants to be. And he's obsessed with the idea of Nikki Freeman loving him more than anyone in the world. And I can't lie, the poem scene is one of the most chilling and disturbing moments in the entire film. I mean, Nikki just stands up and recites a twisted and gory poem that flips Hansel and Gretel on its head. The poem kinda acts as like a weird dark confession about their relationship, revealing that the real Nikki only saw Bear as a brother, and after Bear made his sinister wish, her personality forces a kinda sick romantic relationship onto him. This movie is a great commentary on the male loneliness epidemic and how society is sort of pushing more men into being pussies instead of just shooting their shot. We all know that if Bear just said that he had feelings for Nikki, this whole movie wouldn't even exist. Absolute worst case scenario, he loses a longtime friend, which would suck short term, but most people should be able to bounce back from that. I think what the director, Curry Barker, wants to show is if we don't surround ourselves with a network of supportive friends and family to steer us right, we might end up making some horribly bad decisions. Bear's character is lazy and neglectful, and even though we are meant to sympathize with him, I find it really hard to do so. I mean, especially after that scene where he says, "What's so bad about being with me?" after hearing the real Nikki telling him to end her suffering. I mean, the audacity of this guy. It's clear to see that he's the real villain here, and everything that happens to him in the movie is because of the actions that he decided to take. Surprisingly though, the relatability of some of Bear's characteristics is what makes his character so amazing. The fear, the joy of being in a relationship with someone you like, someone you've dreamt about, and at first it seems like the wish isn't really a bad thing, but after the scene in the restaurant and finding out that Nikki's dad isn't actually dying, he still chooses to be with her. That in itself is obsession, and it grows into an abusive relationship with disastrous consequences. This would not be a good video though if I didn't talk about Indy Navarrete and the portrayal of Nikki Freeman. There wasn't a single point in the movie that felt like her acting could have been better or maybe performed in a different way to give a better effect. Everything was on point, and the audience honestly couldn't have asked for more. I think her dedication to her role was even more admirable, and the research that she put in really paid off in the end, because she created scenes that are unforgettable and will definitely go down in history. I know I meant to save this to the end of the video, but she better get an Oscar for this shit or I'ma crash out. And I think most of you agree with me. One of the hardest roles I've ever seen in terms of acting, and she somehow executed it flawlessly. Because it's one thing to act as a creepy obsessed girlfriend, but to also act as a friend that's being tortured and sees death as her only escape is straight up heartbreaking. Keeping both these characters in mind and then having to perform with them is incredibly exhausting and may end up seeming a bit weird on screen, but somehow Indy manages to do it. Now, we can glaze Indy all that we want, but the fact of the matter is, when it comes to a film, an actual film as a whole, the entire package matters. And Obsession couldn't be a great film because of one performance. It's the supporting roles, the cinematography, the sound design, the pacing, even the subtle awkward silences that all contribute to this really uncomfortable atmosphere that the movie creates. And there are so many moments where you're just waiting for something to happen, and somehow that waiting is actually kind of worse than the horror that pursues it. And this is just really well done by the director, Curry Barker. I mean, seeing clips on this guy on Instagram, I wouldn't think that he would actually be capable of producing something worthy of this much glaze, because this guy, he's something, that's for sure. But nah, in all seriousness, he's actually a genius. The way this movie is just shot is so different, but it still keeps the tension high. There's lots of suspense. And more importantly, I think Curry Barker deserves a lot of credit, because making a film like this with a relatively simple premise and limited resources is not an easy task. The concept itself could have easily turned into something incredibly cheesy or predictable, but the film manages to keep escalating the situation in a way that constantly makes you ask, how is this gonna get worse? And somehow, it always does. And that's probably the best compliment that I can give Obsession. Even when I knew certain scenes were gonna come, I still found myself getting extremely uncomfortable and shitting my pants. I still found myself hoping that Bear would do the obvious thing and just leave. He never does though. That's what makes this film so frustrating, but also effective in terms of leaving you with that message. So, Oscar time. Does Obsession deserve to win Oscars? I mean, in terms of Best Picture, probably not. There's definitely a difference between saying a movie's Oscar-worthy and a movie that's genuinely excellent at what it's trying to do. Obsession is excellent at being a horror movie, but could the writing have been tighter in certain places? Definitely. There are moments where some of the dialogue feels a bit dragged and natural, especially towards the middle. But at the same time, I don't think those flaws take away from what the film manages to achieve. And most importantly, it stays with you after you finish watching it. As for Indy Navarrete, she defo wins an Oscar. I mean, with that type of performance, I just don't see her not winning. So overall, I would give Obsession a solid 8.5 out of 10. Let me know what you guys think below. Do you think this deserves to win Best Picture? Probably not, but, you know, I just want to hear what you have to say. I mean, it isn't a perfect movie, but I don't think it needs to be. It took a simple idea, gave it a disturbing twist, and managed to create a film that genuinely got under my skin. And considering I watched it alone, in complete darkness, at 11 PM, I can confidently say that I made some terrible life decisions too. Anyways, I just want to thank you guys for watching the video. Like and subscribe. Help us grow this community. I'm gonna see you in the next one, I guess. Peace.